What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best free counters for the top 15 brawlers in the game right now. So I haven't done this series for a little while, and the meta has shifted probably from like 4 or 6 months ago when I did this. So this is going to really help you improve in ranked in particular, because when these brawlers are drafted, there's going to be some really good off-meta picks that you can use to counter these top brawlers. So before we jump into it, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Let's jump into it then. So starting off with Buster, he's solidified himself in the meta, and he's so good against so many different things because he's a tank that can also counter his counters, if that makes sense, a typical tank counter. But the first one is going to be Rosa. So Rosa is leaning towards the F tier in the meta, but the one use case for her is to counter Buster, and in 1 versus 1 Buster can't do a single thing. And normally maps where Buster's played on, those bushier maps or gem grab, Brawl, then Rosa's really good in those situations as well. Great counter to him. Same goes with Buzz as well. Buzz is a good counter to Buster if the Buster isn't like completely playing it perfectly, because sometimes you can remove Buzz's stun with Buster, but most of the time you use a long stun with Buzz and you should be able to beat Buster in a 1 versus 1. There's nothing you can really do about that. And the final one is Jackie. So Jackie's risen a lot in the meta because of Buster, because Jackie's a great counter to Buster. Buster just doesn't have the damage output to keep up with Jackie. Jackie can just use super, gadget, and kill Buster easily. So now take a look at the best counters to Juju. So I actually pretty struggled on this one because Juju's a thrower that's good into most things, good into assassins, good into tanks, etc. So there's hardly any like true absolute counters to this brawler, but the best way is one of them got to be Cole. So Cole's a great counter to Juju because Cole can destroy Gree pretty quickly. The pet, you got to take a look at brawlers that can destroy Gree, and then Juju's vulnerable once that super is taken down. And then you've also got Protective Parrot, gives him an extra bit of HP, and Juju cannot interrupt Cole's super, so Cole's got a good matchup there. Next up is Brock. So this is actually the best counter that I can think of against Juju. The main reason being is because you're thinking of a bushy map, a knockout and bounty. I'm thinking Flare and Phoenix, I think it is. If you use a rocket fuel gadget with Brock, you can destroy Juju's grass, and Juju just loves to abuse the longest shot, which she has when she's inside of grass, and the invisibility as well. If you just open up the map, then Juju basically has no range. So Brock is a great counter to Juju in ranks. And then the last one is Frank. So again, I really struggled to find an absolute true counter to her, but I'm just thinking the higher the HP, normally the better against the Juju, just because you're able to survive and pressure her. That's about the only way you can counter her. So now the best counters for Lou. So Lou is one of the best anti-tanks in the game, and you kind of guessed it, you got to face off against anti-tanks with control brawlers. But the first one is going to be Bo. So Bo, I've always used to counter Lou, especially when you think of Ring of Fire, you think in the mid. You know, Lou is one of the best brawlers in the hot zone because of his zoning. Well, Bo outranges a Lou, should be able to out damage, got the same amount of HP, you know, that kind of thing. I just always pick Bo, even when Bo was one of the worst brawlers in the game. And then if Lou throws out his super, well, Bo's got his mines. It's the same kind of zoning technique that I really like, and I always use Bo into a Lou. Same goes with B. So B hasn't got the zoning, but just in a pure 1 versus 1, I always like B into a Lou. It's just easy to connect onto Lou, and again, those maps where Lou's good on, normally B is good. And next up, we've got Kenji. So I know what you're thinking. Well, doesn't Lou counter assassins and tanks? Well, Kenji's actually one of the only ones that can fully counter Lou, mainly because with Kenji's super, he'll remove all of Lou's slow, and that is completely broken. And you've also just got the fact that Lou's main attack is still pretty hard and inconsistent to hit, whilst Kenji with his main attack, he can juke out, get good position, and again remove all of the freeze with his super. So we're looking to counter Max. So one of the best counters to Max absolutely has to be Poco. So Poco's not the most meta brawler anymore, but still Poco with the heals. Max hasn't got the best amount of DPS. Max is used to help her teammates, you know, make an impact on the map, so her DPS is lacking when there's a Poco constantly spamming out heals with gadget, with super, hypercharge, etc. And the same goes with Pam as well. So Pam's kind of this mid-range brawler that Pam can always out heal a Max. I know you'll end up feeding a lot of Max speeds, but in that pure 1 versus 1, in the past in competitive for years and years, people have always drafted a Pam into a Max. Max doesn't like those big HP brawlers because she just doesn't have enough DPS to take them down in 1 versus 1. And then the final one, weirdly enough, I'm going to put Gus, because in the pure 1 versus 1, it's hard to find a true counter to Max, but I'm thinking of those bigger projectile brawlers, and Gus has one of the biggest ones for a sniper. So typically max counter snipers, so Gus is one of those few that actually like that favorable matchup for Gus because you can consistently hit shots against the max. The next brawler we're looking to counter, it is Carl. So Carl in the previous meta was nearly impossible to counter because even those tanks that got up close to him, he could just one-shot with heat ejector. Now it's not as punishing. So the typical counters, for example, Buzz just has such a free matchup into Carl. It's ridiculous. Like if you have last pick and you have Buzz and Hard Rock Mines, for example, Buzz is just going to destroy Carl every single time. It's just up close. Carl can't deal with those assassins, and Buzz can get up close really easily with his hooks, with his hypercharge, and just overall his stun interrupting Carl's super. Yeah, it's just completely free. The same goes with Buster. So again, Buster got the hypercharge, which of course helped him in the meta, but he was also one of the few brawlers that fully countered Carl in the previous meta. Of course, he still counters him now because you got Buster just being able to interrupt Carl's super, and just in 1 versus 1, Buster can burst down Carl pretty quickly. So Buster was always used to counter Carl in the pro scene. And then finally Jackie. So again, Carl just doesn't have the DPS to deal with Jackie. Then Jackie with super, pulling Carl in and just destroying him. Jackie's always been a good counter to Carl. The next meta brawler we're looking to counter is Angelo. So again, I really struggled to find a brawler to counter Angelo. This is why he's always at the top of the meta, because so consistent against everything. The first brawler is going to be Max, and even then, like, you've got to be a really good Max to counter an Angelo. But I'm just thinking of the pressure. Angelo players hate it when if he misses a couple of shots, then you can just get close to him with max speeds, etc. So that's the only thing I could think of. Next is high health brawlers. So I know Angelo can technically feed a lot of super from them, but it's going to take him like 3 fully charged shots to kill some of the tankier brawlers in the game. And I hate it when I face off against Buster, Buzz, Prima, etc. All of these brawlers jumping onto Angelo. Can't deal with it whatsoever. And then finally I went with Nanny, just because other snipers I don't think actually counter Angelo that well, but at least Nanny can use a return to sender to a big charged shot. So I think Nanny's the only sniper that counters. Next, we're looking to counter Amber. So Amber's returned to the top of the meta thanks to the hypercharge. It's nothing game breaking, but it's just a nice addition. So for the first brawler, it's going to be Crow. So Crow's always been used as a great counter to Amber because you can stop Amber in the tracks with the slow. It's just the outrange, and you can jump on top of an Amber. And especially since they fixed the Dancing Flames gadget bug, you can now just jump on top of an Amber pretty easily. So the key here is just try to get as close to Amber as possible. Next up, we've got Kit. So I really like Kit into Amber because, again, since that gadget bug was nerfed a couple of updates ago, now you can jump on top of an Amber as a Kit and actually take her down really easily. There's nothing that Amber can do in retaliation to that. And then finally I went with Bonnie. So a little bit of a weird one. So Bonnie can outrange an Amber and then of course jump on top of an Amber pretty easily and just deal with her quickly. There's nothing that Amber can do. There's no way for Amber to defend herself. So now we're going to be trying to counter Lily. So Lily is one of the better brawlers in the game right now since her hypercharge. The pros are abusing her a lot, and I think it's actually pretty difficult to counter her right now because our typical counters tanks aren't as strong as they used to, because the hypercharge Lily allows to just burst through tanks pretty quickly. But the first one is going to be a tank. It's going to be Jackie. So with Counter Crusher star power, Lily would never really want to teleport onto a Jackie unless she's like below 5,000, 6,000 health, because it's just asking to die. Up close, Jackie just counts so many brawlers with Counter Crusher. You just don't want to do that with Lily. Next up is RT. So again, we see a lot of people pick RT now in the weirdest spots just because RT is such a good counter to brawl like Lily. When can you ever really teleport onto an RT? Because he'll always have his super, so he can burst down Lily plays pretty quickly. The only way Lily can win that is with the hypercharge super, and then of course she can win that matchup. And then lastly I went for Chester. So Chester has a good matchup into Lily, mainly because if you teleport onto a Chester and if he's got the 3-4 bell sequence, most of the time Lily's just going to die pretty much instantly. So now we're looking to counter Ollie. The first brawler is going to be Jackie. So Jackie again was really strong in the NA meta because of a few brawlers like Buster, Carl. Again, like Ollie, Jackie's a great counter to all of these brawlers because Ollie can't really kill a Jackie quick enough because he's not got the best DPS right as a tank. He's more of like a controlled assassin tank, you know what I mean, like this hybrid tank, but he's never had the most burst damage potential to stop Jackie just running in time and time again. So Ollie can never really kill a Jackie safely. Next, we've got Buzz. So again, Ollie doesn't really like it. I know sometimes he can defend himself if he plays well into tanks with the All Eyes on Me stop gadget, but with Buzz, with the longer stun, I just see so many pros draft Buzz into an Ollie. Just for that reason, Ollie just doesn't have the quick burst damage. And then lastly, I went with Nita, mainly because I know an Ollie can, you know, kind of juke it out with Nita at that longer range. But once Nita gets a bear, Ollie just simply doesn't have the damage or the reload to even kill a Bruce, and even a hypercharged Bruce bear. It just sends Ollie all the way back into spawn. The next brawler we're looking to counter, it is B. So B has been an S tier brawler ever since the gadget rework and the hypercharge especially. But there's a few brawlers that I always look to counter B with. So the first example is going to be Bell easily. So Bell is a great counter to B in those mid-range maps. Main reason being is because Bell, I don't think actually outranges a B, but Bell has a quicker projectile speed. So in that mid-range, or even at maximum range, you should be able to just juke out B shots a little bit easier, and Bell can just hit more consistent shots. It's just always been a counter for years and years. Pros, you know, think of Ring of Fire and that 1 versus 1. Someone drafts B, every single pro will want to draft the Bell. Next up, we have Sprout. So Sprout's always been a great counter to B, just because B's squishy. Is enough really needed to be said about that. You know, can free shot B pretty much all of the time. The only way B can really survive against Sprout if she holds on to her big sting, so she has a shield. And then lastly, Mr. P. Do I even need to say anything about this? Mr. P can just consistently waste B's ammo. Unfortunately for Mr. P, he isn't meta anymore, but still, if you're looking for a counter, you can go Mr. P. So now we're looking to counter the 5 best brawlers in the game. Starting off at number 5, it is Chester. So Chester's a pretty hard brawler to counter right now, mainly because of that fast movement speed and the decent HP, of course, really good damage. So the first brawler is going to be Janet. I just think in that mid-range interaction, you know, Janet's not got the craziest matchup in the world, but she should be able to consistently out damage Chester at that mid-range. So Chester can't really do a lot about that, and especially with Janet's super as well, she can get away, etc. Next up, we have Spike. So a little bit of a weird one. I think for most people, like the top 0.01%, Spike won't be able to hit Chester consistently with Curveball, but for the most part, when I'm just playing ranked, hardly anyone can still juke Curveball consistently who I face off against, and I like using Spike into Chester. It seems to work every single time. And then lastly, Tara. So this one's a little bit of a weird one. I think Tara does outrange a Chester, I'm pretty sure. And then you've got the pets on top of that. I just think in most mid-range maps, I see a lot of pros going Tara into Chester. I personally like that matchup. I think that's a decent one, but there's not a lot of brawlers that hard counter Chester, in my opinion. So we're looking to counter Jay Young. We're looking to counter myself. How do we counter me? You can't. I'm undefeatable. No. Jay Young, the best counter absolutely right now is Crow. So Crow is being used a lot to counter Jay Young in competitive, because you've got the anti-healing buff that Crow received from 40% to 60%. You've also got this slowing gadget on top of that. So you're nerfing both of his elements basically with Crow. I don't think it's like an absolute hard counter, but pros are drafting it a lot. It's a decent counter, but Crow is pretty weak right now. I think it's his only use case in the meta, countering Jay Young. Next up, we went with Bell. So kind of the same theme here with what people use to counter Jean. Is they use a Bell. The reason being is because with Jean, you want to use magic puffs and you want to group together, and Bell stops that, right, with the ricocheting shots. The same with Jay Young. With Jay Young, you want to try and group up so you get the most potential out of your star power, your supers, etc. But Bell stops that from happening, and you can outrange Jay Young, etc. And then the last one, I think some assassins can deal with Jay Young pretty good. He's got a damage gadget that can burst them down pretty quickly, but brawlers like Daryl or just assassins that can go over an amount of space really quickly should be able to counter Jay Young efficiently. So now we're looking to counter the milkman himself, Hank. So Hank hardly has any counters right now in the meta, and that is very, very dangerous, especially when I'm facing off against Hank. I'm always like, oh, what do I do to counter this brawler? I just can't counter him. The first brawler is Dynamite, though. Dynamite is by far the best counter to Hank. It's because of the hitbox where Hank is a little bit bigger, and for whatever reason, Dynamite can just abuse Hank with a stun, etc. It's always been the most free matchup. I can never, ever, ever deal with a Dynamite that's at least got some hands. If the Dynamite is terrible, then you can still run all over him because you can two-shot him, but, you know, pro Hank versus pro Dynamite, Dynamite will win it 100 times. Next is Frank. So Frank is a great counter to Hank. There is sometimes an interaction where Hank has super, and if Hank's close enough, then he can get close to Frank and super him. But for the most part, a good Frank player should be able to stun a Hank, interrupt him, deal with him appropriately. And then the last one is going to, well, there's a couple. There's Colette, but Colette isn't the most meta right now, but Colette with the pushbacks, etc. can be good into Hank. But Primo's a really good counter to Hank, mainly because you've got Primo's Chuck gadget, you've also got Primo's super, and Hank players hate it when his bubble gets interrupted. So any type of stun or knockback is a great counter into Hank. Now moving into the second best brawler in the game and the best counters. So the first counter is going to be Otis. So Otis is a great counter to Kenji because literally with the mute, you're restricting his movement, you're restricting everything, and you should be able to burst him down pretty effectively. He's one of the few brawlers that, again, you know, Kenji's got some good movement. He can juke out a lot of shots, but with Otis, he should be able to consistently land shots onto a Kenji. Next up, we've got Frank. So what pros do a lot of the time is they pick Frank into Kenji. It's mainly because Kenji doesn't have the DPS to deal with Frank, and then what you can do with Frank, when you're low HP, you can use the irresistible attraction gadget and just gadget Kenji in close and just destroy him. The only problem is right now in the meta is with Kenji's hypercharge. You know, Kenji can feed a lot of hypercharge for free against Frank, and then just go into different matchups. Again, there's always this debate who counters who, but I think most pros think like go Frank into Kenji for a reason. And then the last one's going to be RT. So again, because of how good Kenji is right now in the meta, I'm seeing some more RT just to fully counter Kenji, because what can Kenji do into an RT that split? Absolutely nothing. So now we're looking to counter the best brawler in the game, and these brawlers are the best brawler in the game because there's so few counters. So I really struggled. The first one's going to be Mortis. I don't even think Mortis counters Lumi that well, to be honest, just because of how quickly Lumi can spam out her main projectile. But for the most part, when I'm playing Lumi, I don't like it when people are close to me, because Lumi has no way of like stunning them or dealing any really fast damage, any knockback. So if an assassin can get the better of you, if you misplay things, then Mortis can, of course, kill you. Next up, we've got Buzz. So again, a type of assassin can get destroyed by Lumi's main attack, but again, if Lumi messes up or you just get a really good hook, then Lumi can't really kill you quickly enough. And then lastly, I went with Ollie, mainly because you can jump over Lumi's super, jump over Lumi's attacks. You know, you can quickly just avoid a lot of the control that Lumi provides. Again, I really struggle to counter Lumi because even the snipers Lumi can be pretty good into, even the throwers Lumi can still be pretty good into. Yeah, she's the best brawler in the game for a reason. I don't think there's really a true absolute counter, but if there is any counters that I missed out on, guys, make sure to let me know down in the comment section below. I'm always looking to improve myself as well. I can't know every single counter for every single brawler. It is literally impossible. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.